I met her on a Tuesday. It was one of those early autumn days in Chicago, where the wind carries a chill, but the trees are burning with color. I had just spilled coffee on my shirt, missed my train, and cursed the universe for a full 10 minutes when I saw her standing at the edge of Grant Park. Red scarf, notebook in hand, eyes lifted to the trees like they were trying to tell her a secret. I don't know what made me stop walking. Maybe it was the way she stood still in a city that never does. Or maybe it was the way the sunlight caught her hair like a halo, and for a moment, the chaos of my morning just went silent. Beautiful day, huh? I said, the most cliché line in history. She looked at me, squinted a little, like she was trying to read something written behind my eyes, and smiled. Depends. Are you the type to appreciate a beautiful day, or just complain when it's gone? That was how Lily entered my life, not gently, not quietly, but like a comet crashing into a still lake. She was warmth and wit and unpredictability. A graduate student in art history with a laugh that felt like a promise. She believed in slow walks, old bookstores, and making pancakes at midnight. I was a software engineer who hadn't read a novel in 5 years and mostly believed in deadlines and traffic lights. But with her, I wanted to believe in everything. We fell in love in the smallest, most meaningful ways. The way she'd hum Sinatra while brushing her teeth. How she'd lean her head on my shoulder during subway rides, even if it meant falling asleep and missing her stop. The way she touched old paintings like they might feel it. Lily had this habit of writing me notes on napkins, receipts, whatever she could find, always something random and poetic. I kept every single one. One night, under the purple glow of a flickering streetlight, she whispered, "I think love is when someone makes you feel more like yourself than you knew you could be." She made me feel that way every day. Our favorite spot was this rooftop above a bakery her friend owned in Lincoln Park. We'd sneak up there with hot cocoa and a blanket, stare out over the city skyline. Talk about dreams. She wanted to teach art in Italy. I wanted to design something people would remember. We talked about the future like it was a place we'd already been. Marriage, a tiny house by the lake, kids with her eyes, and my stubbornness. I would have gone anywhere for her. I still would. There was this one evening, early November, when it started to snow unexpectedly. Big, heavy flakes falling like confetti from the clouds. She reached her hand out and caught one on her palm. She looked at me and said, "I want to remember this moment exactly how it is. You, me, the snow. Before the world changes." I didn't ask what she meant by that. I just kissed her. Looking back, those days felt golden, not just in memory, but in spirit. There was no foreshadowing, no cracks beneath our feet. Just love. Honest, open, cinematic love. The kind you don't think happens in real life. But it did. It happened to me. To us. And I didn't know then how deeply love and pain would become the same thing. It started with a tremor. Just a flicker in her hand as she passed me the remote one night. We were curled up on the couch, some old black and white film playing in the background. At first, I didn't even mention it. People's hands shake sometimes, right? But then it happened again. And again. She brushed it off. Said it was probably just too much caffeine or stress from finals. But Lily never drank more than 1 cup of coffee, and stress never shook her voice when she spoke. A few weeks later, she forgot my birthday. It wasn't like her. She had once thrown me a surprise party just for surviving tax season. So when the day came and went with no note, no cake, not even a mention, I knew something was wrong. When I asked her about it, she went quiet, eyes searching the air, like the answer might float back to her if she waited long enough. I don't know how I missed it," she said softly. "It's like, I feel foggy. Like someone turned the lights down in my head." That night, she cried in my arms. Not loud, not broken, just silently, tears slipping down her cheeks like raindrops rolling off glass. The doctors called it neurological irregularity. Then early-onset cognitive disorder. But all I heard was this. They didn't know what was happening. I sat in those beige hospital rooms, watching white coats talk around her like she wasn't there. Lily would squeeze my hand during those visits. But even her grip was changing looser. Slower. Once, after one particularly vague consult, she looked at me and asked, What if I forget how to love you? I didn't know how to answer. So I told her, then I'll remember for both of us. The months blurred. Her vibrant laughter turned quiet. Her sentences got shorter. Sometimes she'd lose track of what she was saying mid-thought and just stare at me, frustrated and scared, like her mind was a maze she couldn't find her way out of. Our rooftop stopped being our sanctuary. She forgot how to get there. She stopped painting. One night, I found her in the kitchen at 2 a.m., trying to heat a tea bag on the stove without water. When I asked what she was doing, she just blinked at me and said, "I wanted to make you something warm." And something in me shattered. But there were still sparks, moments where she came back. On good days, she'd smile and call me her lighthouse. On bad days, she'd look at me like I was a stranger in her apartment. Those were the hardest, not the forgetting, but the way her eyes would quietly ask, "Who are you?" Still, I stayed. I held her through the fog. I kissed her forehead every night. I whispered our story to her like a bedtime ritual, praying some part of her still remembered how it began. And then, the turning point came. We were at the lake. It was early spring. The kind of day where the air still bites, but the light promises warmth is coming. I took her there hoping the rhythm of the water might soothe her. She always loved the lake. She was quiet for a long time, watching the waves. Then she looked at me and said, "There's something inside me that's slipping. And I'm scared I won't be able to hold on much longer." I grabbed her hand. "Then I'll hold on for you." Her lips trembled. "But what if I disappear?" And I told her the only truth I had left. "I will love you even if I have to find you in pieces." But I could feel it now, she was slipping. Not just fading, but leaving. The woman who once danced barefoot in the rain was now forgetting how to tie her shoes. And every time I looked at her, I saw the timeline of our love cracking at the edges. But I refused to let go, even as the light inside her began to flicker. I swore I would not let it go out. Not without a fight. There's a kind of grief that doesn't come all at once. It trickles in slowly, unnoticed at first, like a leak behind the walls. And by the time you realize what's happening, the foundation's already rotting. That's what it felt like, losing Lily, one piece at a time. Her voice. Her memory. Her laugh. She was still here, breathing, existing, but not in the way she used to. And I was disappearing right along with her. I stopped seeing friends. Stopped answering texts. Work became a blur of missed meetings and silent screens. People started asking, "Are you okay?" the way you ask someone when you already know the answer. I said I was fine. I wasn't. Because every day I watched the love of my life become a ghost in her own skin, and every day I felt more like a bystander than a partner. I kept showing up, cooking her meals, helping her bathe, walking her to the park like we used to. But I wasn't really there. I was running on autopilot, a shell of myself. I started forgetting who I was outside of her illness. Sleep was the only place I saw her whole again. In dreams, she was laughing on the rooftop, spinning in her red scarf, whispering old song lyrics in my ear. But every morning I woke to silence and another version of her gone. One night, I found her in the hallway, clutching the front door with both hands. "Where are you going?" I asked gently. She turned, eyes wide. "Home," she whispered. "This is home, Lily." She blinked. Then her face crumpled like paper. I don't know who I am anymore. Neither did I. I held her, trembling, both of us crying. The kind of cry that doesn't come with noise. Just breath. And heartbreak. I started keeping a notebook, writing down everything she used to love. Lavender tea. Van Gogh's Starry Night. The first snowfall. Chocolate croissants. The smell of old books. It became my guide, a manual to bring pieces of her back. Some days it worked. I'd light a lavender candle, and she'd smile without knowing why. I'd play Sinatra, and she'd hum the first few notes before drifting off. Other days, nothing reached her. I'd stare into her eyes, hoping to find the woman I loved staring back, but she was deep underwater now, barely surfacing. I was angry too. Not at her. Never at her. But at the universe. At God. At whatever cruel force decided that the brightest soul I'd ever known should dim like this. I punched walls. I yelled into the shower. I broke 3 plates and didn't clean them up for a week. People said I was strong. I was not strong. I was desperate. Because when you love someone this much and the world starts pulling them away, you don't let go, you hold tighter, even if it breaks you. Then, one morning, something changed. I was cleaning out one of her old art folders and found a sketch, a drawing she had done of us on the rooftop. Her lines were soft, deliberate. There was so much light in it. But there, scribbled in the corner, were the words, "If I forget you, please don't forget me." I stared at those words for a long, long time. And something in me clicked. This wasn't just happening to her. It was happening to us. And if she was disappearing, then I had to go after her. No matter where it took me. No matter who I had to become. The turning point wasn't a dramatic explosion or a sudden revelation. It was an envelope. Plain. White. Buried beneath a stack of Lily's old medical bills. I wasn't looking for anything that day, just trying to organize the endless paper trail that came with her condition. Insurance statements. Doctor summaries. Test results that read like static to my tired brain. But the envelope didn't have a return address. Inside was a letter, handwritten, not by Lily. The penmanship was neat but unfamiliar. If you're reading this, then you've noticed it too. Something doesn't add up. There are others. Start with Dr. R, West Memorial Research Division. Room 6B. No signature. No explanation. Just that. For a long time, I sat there, letter trembling in my hands, pulse rising like a tide. I thought I was going crazy. That grief had twisted my mind so far out of place, I was chasing ghosts. But something deep inside me, the part that still knew Lily's soul even as her mind slipped, told me this wasn't over. So I followed it. West Memorial was the hospital where Lily had been misdiagnosed, twice. They had labeled her with everything from stress-induced cognitive fog to early-onset Alzheimer's, but none of the treatments helped. I still remembered the receptionist's name. I still remembered the smell of the halls, antiseptic and artificial hope. Room 6B was in the research wing, quiet, almost hidden. I waited until after hours. Security was light. A fire exit left ajar gave me just enough access to slip through. I told myself this wasn't breaking and entering. It was searching for the truth. Inside, I found files. Dozens of them. All with red stamps across the top. Confidential clinical study, Neuro 9. My heart stopped. Lily's name was on one of them. The pieces fell into place like broken glass rearranging into a mirror. She had been part of a clinical trial 2 years ago for a new neurological enhancer. A drug designed to increase cognitive sharpness and delay memory degradation. It was marketed as a smart supplement for high-functioning individuals. Lily had joined during grad school, recruited through an off-campus program. She was never told it was still experimental. Never told about the long-term risks. Risks like degenerative cognitive collapse. Risks like what was happening to her now. There were others, names listed in similar reports. People showing similar symptoms. A few had already been institutionalized. One had died. I took pictures. Everything. Every file, every name. I confronted Dr. R the next morning. He was polished, mid-50s, cold eyes behind expensive glasses. He didn't deny the trial. Didn't even seem surprised I'd found out. She signed the consent form, he said, shrugging. She didn't know what she was signing, I snapped. His jaw tensed. That's not my responsibility. That's when I lost it. I slammed the folder on his desk. You broke her. You stole her from me. And you're going to fix it or I'll burn this place down. There was silence. Then, there may be a reversal protocol. It was untested. Risky. But it existed. Buried in an internal report. Denied funding because it lacked profitability. It was our only chance. I took the files to a lawyer. Blew the whistle. I gave copies to every news outlet I could find. Within days, the hospital was swarmed with inquiries. But my focus was on one thing, the reversal. They agreed to administer the protocol, under pressure, and only after I signed enough waivers to cover a mountain. It would be painful, they said. Invasive. And no guarantees. But Lily had always said, if there's still a fight worth fighting, I want to be in the ring. So I stood by her hospital bed, held her hand, and said, "I'm not here to save you. I'm here to bring you back." She didn't answer, but a single tear slid down her cheek. And I knew she heard me. They say love changes people. What they don't tell you is that sometimes love breaks you first. The day they started the reversal protocol, I didn't sleep. I sat in the hallway outside the operating room for 10 hours, arms crossed, heart locked in my throat. They had Lily sedated. Tubes in her arms, machines tracking every heartbeat, every flicker of brain activity. I saw her through the window once, pale, motionless. Like a painting half-finished, colors faded from the canvas. I remember thinking, this is the price. This is what love asks. Not flowers. Not dinners. Not perfect photographs in golden light. Sometimes, love asks you to bleed. Over the next 2 weeks, the treatment began to take shape. It wasn't a miracle cure. It wasn't some glowing serum that reversed everything overnight. It was hard. Violent, even. She had seizures. Memory storms. Night terrors so intense, she'd scream my name and then look at me like I was a stranger. Some days, she didn't speak at all. Others, she remembered fragments, our rooftop. Sinatra. My name on her lips like it belonged there. "I saw you in a dream," she whispered once. "You were crying." I was. Every day. Just not always on the outside. Meanwhile, I was changing too. I had quit my job. Sold my car. Moved into a smaller apartment to cover her treatments. I barely recognized myself in the mirror, hollow cheeks, sleepless eyes, shoulders that carried too much. But it wasn't just physical. I had stopped being the man who looked at life logically, like a math problem waiting to be solved. That version of me died somewhere between the first forgotten birthday and the envelope in the mail. In his place, there was someone else. Someone who understood that love wasn't about fixing people, it was about staying when everything was broken. Someone who would go to war against a system built to erase the inconvenient truth. Someone who would sit through hospital chairs and courtrooms and long, endless silences, because the alternative was losing her completely. The world didn't slow down to notice my transformation. No applause. No soundtrack. Just morning after morning of holding Lily's hand and praying that somewhere inside her, the woman I loved was fighting her way back. And slowly, she did. One afternoon, I walked into her room and she looked up. And smiled. Not the vague, polite smile she'd been giving for months. This was hers. The one I fell in love with in Grant Park. The one that could light up a November afternoon. "Hi," she said. 2 letters. Just that. And I broke. Right there in the doorway, knees to the floor, tears on my cheeks. I laughed through the sobs and whispered, "Hi." It wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Her memory was fragmented. The damage wasn't gone, just slowed. Contained. But I saw her again. Really saw her. And in her eyes, I think she saw me too. The man she met on a windy Tuesday, yes. But also, someone else. Someone reshaped by grief and hope. Hardened by love and softened by pain. A man who had walked through fire, not to save her, but to stand beside her in the flames. I wasn't the man I used to be. And I didn't want to be. Because the truth is, love doesn't just change you. It asks you to become more than who you were. And if you're lucky, if the stars hold just a little mercy, you become someone worth remembering. She remembered my name today. No hesitation. No searching. Just, Ethan. Like it was never lost. I was pouring coffee when she said it, like it was the most casual thing in the world. And I froze, mug halfway to the counter, steam curling in the air between us. She tilted her head and smiled softly. "What? You look like you've seen a ghost." I laughed, not because it was funny. Because it was the only way I wouldn't cry. It's been a year since the treatment. We don't talk about miracles. We talk about moments. Moments where the fog lifts and she comes back to me in full color, in sharp focus. Then other days, she drifts again. Sometimes she forgets what season it is. Or she thinks her father, who passed 5 years ago, is still coming over for Sunday dinner. Sometimes she wakes up and doesn't know where she is. But she always knows me now. Not always by name, but by presence. By feeling. By love. I've stopped asking why. Why her? Why this? Why love so fiercely only to hurt so deeply? Because the answer is simple. Love and pain are not opposites. They are twins, born of the same flame. To love, truly, deeply, is to open yourself up to loss, to grief, to the ache of memory and the weight of hope. But the pain proves it was real. Some nights, we still go to the rooftop. It's harder now. We take the elevator. I carry the blanket. She hums old songs under her breath, sometimes Sinatra, sometimes something made up entirely. The city stretches below us, lights flickering like stars. She leans into me, head on my shoulder. Do you remember when we first came up here? She asks. I smile. Of course. She looks at me. I don't, she says quietly. But I feel like I do. And that's enough. I used to think love was about the big moments, the first kiss, the late-night confessions, the whispered promises under candlelight. But now I know love lives in the quiet. In helping her brush her hair on the hard days. In rereading her favorite poem for the 10th time. In sitting beside her when words are too heavy to carry. Love is not loud. It endures in silence. I keep every note she ever wrote me. Some days, she reads them aloud and smiles at how romantic this Lily girl was. Other days, she just runs her fingers across the ink like it's familiar, like somewhere, deep in her bones, she remembers being that girl. And I remember too. Because I was there. And I'm still here. This is not the ending I would have written. Not the happy ever after you see in movies. But it is ours. Bittersweet. Beautiful. Messy and full of light. And in the end, that's what love is. Not perfect. Just true. And when you truly love someone, you love them even as they fade. Even as they change. Even as the pain carves something new into you. Because that pain? That's where the love still lives.